you will move in the direction of the people that you associate with.
We're looking for evidence of exceptional ability, and it really doesn't matter if you went to graduate high school or college or anything.
There's no reason people help you. You get help because you earn the credit. You earn the reputation.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business.
Living that believing life. Out here living that believing life. Every day we living that believing life. Hustle like we living that believing life. Living life, yeah, so we grinding it out. Every single day we be grinding it out. Hustle like we living that believing life, oh. That believing life, oh.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn how billionaires think and get some success advice from the top. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Choose who you associate with Warren Buffett.
You will move in the direction of the people that you associate with. So it's important to associate with people that are better than yourself, and actually the most important decision many of you make, not all of you, will be the spouse you choose. Right. And you want to associate with people who are the kind of person you'd like to be. You'll move in that direction, and the most important person by far in that respect is your spouse. I can't overemphasize how important that is, and you're right. The friends you have, they will form you as you go through life, and make some good friends, keep them for the rest of your life, but have them be people that you admire as well as like.
Rule number 2, have exceptional ability with Elon Musk.
What do you look for in the people you hire, especially the engineers?
Really just look for evidence of exceptional ability. So it's not, or at least aspirationally, like sometimes these things get messed up in recruiting, or the recruiting filter ends up being wrong. Like I sometimes wonder with Tesla, if Nikola Tesla applied to Tesla, would we even give him an interview? It's not clear. You know, this guy came from like some weird college in somewhere in Eastern Europe. He's got some odd mannerisms. Now, we don't know if we should give him an interview. Like, I worry that that's actually what we do instead of like, it should be like, man, Nikola Tesla, this kid's super smart. What does he want? We'll pay him anything. That should be that should be the reaction if Nikola Tesla applies, to Tesla, ironically. But I can tell you the intent is we're looking for evidence of exceptional ability, and it really doesn't matter if you went to graduate high school or college or anything. We're just looking for evidence of exceptional ability, such that it would be a good predictor for doing exceptional things at SpaceX.
Rule number 3, have fun with Jeff Bezos.
One of the first times that I demoed recommendations live with a live website, I was speaking to a group of Wall Street analysts, and my number one personal recommendation was a DVD called Slave Girls Beyond Infinity. And this is much less embarrassing, and you never know what you're going to get. I never know exactly what I'm going to get because it is live and it does change, from minute to minute. But I'm glad to see that today I've gotten, Apollo. And then I can see, of course, why was I recommended this? Because I bought Cosmos and Angle of Attack and another book called Apollo. But Slave Girls Beyond Infinity, I'll just show you, was a little embarrassing. What happened to that laser pointer thing? Oh, here it is. Do not look directly into me. Okay. There it is. Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity. Let's go over here. This is pretty interesting. So you can buy this DVD with Assault of the Killer Bimbos. Buy together. It's only $19.96. All of that product clustering is done automatically, of course. you come down and you'll notice that, customers who bought slave girls also bought sorority babes in the Slimeball Bolorama, and my personal favorite, cannibal women in the avocado jungle of death. And there's this interesting thing here. We even know when things are part of a series. So we say, and also they bought DVDs from the Barbarian Queen series, so we can click through and look at the Barbarian Queen. And there's a customer review here. It says, for Lena Clarkson fans only. This is Barbarian Queen 2. This is not even Barbarian Queen. It's an incredibly bad film whose only redeeming feature is Lena Clarkson in and out of some skimpy outfits. She's completely gorgeous, but even she can't save a disaster of a film. Then here comes the great recommendation. Buy Deathstalker instead.
Lesson number 4, don't be dependent on one vertical with Grant Cardone.
You mentioned that whilst writing 10X Rule, something changed for you.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that sort of this
look, the 10X rule
to going all in, or?
No, the 10X rule, it was just the awareness of I had been dependent upon one vertical.
Right.
And I'm sitting there looking, okay, I worked my ass off. I was good at my craft. I saved my money. What did I do wrong here, dude? 51 years old. I should be like so rich right now. I should be like not
Where's
even huh?
Where's my jet, Rich?
I wasn't even thinking about a jet then.
Right.
I wasn't even thinking about a jet. I should just be like, I was still having to do business with people I didn't like. I'm like, why am I still kissing asses? And I don't mind kissing asses. Like, I don't mind, I'll do whatever it takes, but I'm like, why am I still flying 3 million miles every 3 years? Like I was banging miles out. I wasn't 150,000 miles a year.
Wow.
Away from my family. Like my life was miserable. I'm like, what? It's fine that you do that for 20 years. It's not fine if you do it forever. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, I wasn't scaling. Now, I didn't know that until the economy basically served up the lesson.
Right.
All right, we're going to take your 3 businesses, and we're going to show you that you really only have like maybe a half of one business. Took the first business and just cut it in half. Took the second business, took it down to like 90%, like just killed this partner I had. And the third business was real estate, and it was frozen. It was literally like they put it in a freezer and said, you're not going to lose any of this, but it's worth nothing to you today.
Yeah.
And I was on life support. And I'm like, I'll never do this again. I will never be dependent upon one vertical, one partner, or a handful of real estate.
Hey, man.
Evan, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
You got a book coming out, don't you?
You just came out.
Where can people get it?
Get it on Amazon. Easiest spot. Built to serve. Right there.
Let's go, man. If you guys don't know Evan, follow Evan Carmichael. He's got a new book out, Build to Serve. Go grab it today at Amazon. Just a good dude right here.
Rule number 5, find good friends with Oprah Winfrey.
You wish yourself, they call her Auntie Gail and me Mamo. I said, you all wish to have a friend like Auntie Gail. You want to have a friend who wants the most, the best, and the highest for you. I have never seen a person like Gail.
Okay.
I've never.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody, especially if you are on the rise in your career and you have had certain friends, and they all act like they're happy for you, but not everybody's happy for you. And every now and then you can hear just a teeny bit of jealousy. You can hear it, you can sense it. I've never had a moment's jealousy from Gail in, the 30-odd years of her friendship, except for the one time I was on stage dancing with Tina Turner. That's the only time I ever heard Gail goes, I wish that was me.
Rule number 6, build your reputation with Jack Ma.
A lot of startups complain that they never get the money from banks, never get the money from the other venture capitalists. Well, rejected by banks, rejected by your venture capital is very normal. You got the money from these guys, not normal. Why people want to help you? Right? There's no reason people help you. You get help because you earn the credit. you earn the reputation. So borrow money from your friends, families. That's the first step. That's everybody. If you cannot even borrow money from your friends and relatives, you guys have a problem. Nobody trusts you, right? So I heard you borrow through $2,000, $1,000. That's good. That means you have this trust from those people that around you. At least you got somebody.
And rule number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is always be open to learning with Peter Thiel.
Assembling a crew of people who are very smart, very fast learners was kind of the key to a success in a startup, as opposed to trying to get someone who had, if they had 10 years experience doing something, that's great. But the more fundamental characteristic is, would they learn fast on the new problems and the new challenges?
Yeah, no, it always feels wrong to be anti-experience, but the place where it can backfire is if the experience makes you think that you know everything.
Yes.
And so it's, again, it's important to know things, and it's important to be open to learning more. And in theory, experience is a plus. In practice, it's often a bit of a minus because people are less open to learning new things, or they're more set on doing a particular job. In the context of a startup, which is always very tricky, where you have small numbers of people, and people need to be very flexible about the roles, and the roles change as the company gets built.
Now I've got some special bonus clips that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you just watch a video and you get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of actually following through. That's not good enough, Believe Nation. We need to take some action. But when you watch a video, you get motivated and you create a specific plan of action, that number jumps from 35% to 91% chance of you following through. And when you publicly commit to other people, like leaving a comment down in this video, your number jumps to 95% chance of you actually following through on the plan you set for yourself. So I want to know your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week. Leave it down in the comments below so I can celebrate you.
What are you most grateful for in your life recently?
My children. That's easy.
Yeah.
My 4 children.
I think every mom has to say that, right? Or it's just
I mean, it's true. It's really how I feel. I'm also really grateful for being a woman born in the right country at the right time. I had nothing to do with that, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
And I wake up all the time thinking of that. My mom, we're only 21 difference in age, 21 years. My mom, her choices were so much more limited and what was expected of her or what her opportunities were. So I mean, if you think about how long we've been on the planet, some people think a couple thousand years, some people think a couple million. Anyway, it's a long time.
Right.
And by just 20 years in the right country, I feel like I was born and had the opportunity for Spanx.
Yeah.
To fulfill a potential or something inside of me as a woman that was in me. And so I'm grateful for that.
This is how we keep our innovation running. I think usually as companies get bigger, they find it really hard to have small, innovative projects. And we had this problem too for a while, and we said, we really need a new concept. The Google Ads, that's a small project that we're not quite sure if it's going to work or not, but we hope it will. And if we do enough of them, some of them will really work and turn out, such as news. But then we had a problem, because then we had over 100 projects. And I don't know about all of you, but I have trouble keeping 100 things in my head at once. And we found that if we just wrote all of them down and ordered them, and these are kind of made up, don't really pay attention to them. For example, the Buy Iceland was from a media article. We would never do such a crazy thing. But in any case, we found if we just basically wrote them all down and ordered them, that most people would actually agree what the ordering should be. And this was kind of a surprise to me, but we found that as long as you keep the 100 things in your head, which you did by writing them down, that you could do a pretty good job deciding what to do and where to put your resources.
I always I get a little upset whenever any media attention focuses on me personally and me leading Facebook, much less a movie.
It's been kind of a bad year, hasn't it?
It turned out okay.
Time Academy.
It turned out good. The time thing was awesome. That was really flattering. But I think that it's one of these things that the media systematically gets wrong, is that this idea that it's a person, right? It's never a person, right? It's always a team. And the most important thing if you are an entrepreneur trying to build something is you need to build a really good team. And that's what I spend a lot of my time on, right? I mean, I spend probably at least 3 hours a day with our core team, right, and doing things. I spend probably 25% of my time recruiting, finding good people, both outside the company and inside the company to put in more impactful roles.
I think the media, there's a little bit of this cultural bias towards thinking that, one person does this, right? I mean, people say that, I built Facebook or Steve Jobs built Apple or whatever, but, that's really not true, right? I mean, we're people, we helped, but there were thousands and thousands of other people involved in building these things. And the reality is that as strong as any one individual is, no one person can deal with all the challenges that are going to get thrown at them in anything that you do. And one of the ways that I think we maintain resilience is by having co-founders and partners who complement our strengths and fortify our weaknesses and can kind of encourage us and give us a push to keep going when things are tough. And there's actually a lot of data on this that suggests that companies that get started with more co-founders are more likely to be successful. And it isn't quite clear exactly from that data why that's the case, although it is very clear in terms of the outcome for the startups that it is the case. But I would guess that the reason why that's the case is because of this resilience point, where people who start something by themselves, I just think there's no way that any one person can overcome all of the different things that you need to do to build a startup or take on any kind of other project in the world. But if you have 2 or 3 or 4 partners, then I don't know. I mean, maybe over time, one of them doesn't like it and drops out, but you still have enough strength on the team to power through all the challenges that you have, and that's kind of how you go. And at Facebook today, one of the things that I always find a little bit funny is, again, that so much attention is placed on me as the person running the company, whereas I think, people like Cheryl, who really, is my partner running the whole business, or, folks like Chris Cox, who run a huge amount of our product, or Mike Schrepfer, who's our chief technology officer and kind of make sure that a ton of what we're doing works, or Jay Parikh, who, runs all of our global infrastructure and all the data centers around the world. We couldn't make Facebook work without those people. Right, and there were really hard days where I'm not sure what to do next, and they keep me going.
So 1979, 80, 81, I calculated that American banks had lent a lot more money to emerging countries than those countries were going to get paid back. And I anticipated that there would be a debt crisis, and with that, an economic crisis. So that was my thinking. In August 1982, Mexico defaulted on its debt, and a number of countries followed. And so because I said that, I got a lot of attention about that. And I thought that was going to be producing a bear market in stocks. And I could not have been more wrong. August 1982 was the exact bottom of the stock market. And I was wrong. And as a result of that, let's take my 8 employees, I had to let them go. I lost money for myself. I lost money and I had to borrow $4,000 from my dad. It was one of the most painful experiences, but it was one of the best experiences that ever happened to me in my life, because it changed my perspective about decision making. It gave me the humility that I needed. And what I did, every time I made a mistake, they became painful mistakes, but with time, I realized that reflecting on those mistakes would give me gems. What I would do is I'd say, why did I make that mistake? And I would learn from that mistake. And I'd write down a rule. So what was helpful for me is I put that rule, I wrote these principles down. Those principles that I wrote down, I then put into algorithms, in other words, equations. And what I learned by being able to do that is if I took my decision criteria, those principles, and then I tested them back through time, I gained a perspective that was fantastic. I could test them in back 100 years. I could test them in different countries, and I would learn how those rules worked.
And by putting all those rules together and then having these algorithms, the computer can replicate my thinking, but it could actually think better than I could, because what it would do is it could process more information, it could process it faster, and it could process it less emotionally. Mistakes are how we learn, because mistakes produce pain. And if you produce that and you convert that to learning, like for example, punishing people for mistakes, is bad because they hide things. Where if you were to say to your kid who makes a mistake, the only thing you have to do is tell me what would you have done different in the future, and then we'll be good. That makes that a learning process. Or weaknesses. Everybody has has a number of weaknesses. The great people that I've seen in almost any area always have weaknesses. They just have known what their weaknesses are and have ways of getting around those weaknesses.
We probably spend less money in marketing than any company our size in the world. We have a tiny marketing department, and everyone says, "Well, why Oracle's all about sales and marketing?" We are the largest employer of MIT and Caltech engineers in the world. We are the largest employer of Stanford and Harvard and CMU mathematicians in the world. We are overwhelmingly dominated by engineering at Oracle. The idea that we are a sales and marketing company, which people will sometimes write about quite often, is ludicrous on the face of it, because all of our customers who buy Oracle already have it. And if you already have Oracle, there's nothing a salesman can tell you about how great it is to make you buy more. GE already uses it. The Defense Department already uses it. All of our customers, 98% of our sales or more, are to existing Oracle customers. If we don't have the right product, people don't buy more. We will, before the acquisition, we spent $3 billion a year in software engineering. The company is all about engineering. It's the only thing that works.
How would you describe each phase of the evolution of Oracle, and how would you sort of describe running each of those phases?
You got to do this quick.
Well, I mean, and clearly being a part of a company with 4 people and being a part of a company, and by the way, we're 85,000 now post merger with Sun. 100. We think about Sun's got about 20,000 employees, and 25,000 employees. We're about 105,000. So 105, 110,000. We're not sure exactly about that. I mean, clearly my job has constantly changed. What has not changed is I ran engineering at Oracle on the first day. I run engineering today. The one part of the company I have always paid attention to, and is always reported directly to me, is engineering. Not sales, not marketing, not support, not consulting, not services. At various points in time, lots of other people have run those operations, the back office, accounting, order management, all of these things. The only thing that I've done consistently during those 32 years is run engineering, because I believe basically that once you'll win, as we say at Oracle. It's amazing. Our good products seem to do very well, and our bad products not so well. So the thing I focused on, and I think where you get the most leverage, is developing the right products, recruiting the right engineers, and having the right organization.
Well, I learned a lot from our founders, and one of the things I learned was ask the impossible and really dream big. And what you learn about people is if you paint a very broad vision, you attract people who really want to make it happen, because they're dreamers too. So you can inspire people, and with that inspiration, you get the smartest people, and they deal with a lot of stuff.
But can an organization like Google, which espouses the idea that you're going to give people in the organization 15 or 20% of their time to do almost anything they want in terms of innovation, can that system work in smaller companies? Can that system work in any company? Is that a leadership tenet that can work across a broad range of companies?
Well, in fact, it worked at Google when Google was tiny. Right. So the answer is yes, it does work in small companies. Remember, we give this to engineers, and engineers are not that clever, right? If they're going to work on something in their 20% time, it's going to be something that's pretty related to their training and their knowledge. And that's why it's so powerful. Very, very few people sort of get off the reservation and do something completely different from technology and so forth. And if they did, we would encourage it.
Has something manifest that you can recall come from just that kind of incubation?
Virtually all of the interesting apps now came from a combination of an acquisition and a 20% time. If if you look at Maps, if you look at Google Earth, if you look at Chrome and Android, all of them came from somebody trying something, identifying something, and then we would say, we have all these 20% timers, but we need a real group. Right. And the fastest way to do that was to create a real group or buy a company.
Larry and Sergey almost got acquired. Can you tell us a little bit about this? And I always wonder how the world might be different if that had in fact happened.
We had developed this technology we called PageRank. Sadly, not BrinRank. But anyway, it probably would have sold better that way. But we had developed this technology that we found was useful for search. It by itself wasn't really a complete search engine. What we had kind of just search titles of web pages and ranked them quite well. But we showed it to a bunch of the existing search companies back then. Some of you might remember them, InfoSeek, Excite, Lycos. Probably the greatest interest came from Excite, and it actually came from Vinod. You were the investor in Excite. And we spent a while talking to them, talking to you, Vinod.
Yeah.
You remember that. In the end, I don't think the management team there was quite as excited about it, no pun intended. But I remember there were 4 of us at the time, 4 grad students at Stanford. And I remember we fired off a note to Vinod. It was just like a little email. We said, we don't really want to sell, but okay, for $1.6 million, you got a deal. And a few minutes later, we got a reply and said, that's a lot of dough, but okay, we'll do it. I know, that's characteristic of Vinod, right? So then, 10 minutes later, Scott, one of the 4 of us, comes running in, laughing, huge grin on his face. He had faked the reply. And, yeah, back then, the ethics around faking email weren't quite the same. Anyway, so he had that big joke, and the deal obviously never came to fruition, and we went our own way to build search.
Education is essentially a social construct. It's not that the universities have secret knowledge that only they have available. I took, these numbers won't make any sense anymore, but the hardest freshman math class was called Math 55. I assume it's not called that anymore. But it was a group of 80 people whose personal positioning was they were the best person at math that they had ever met. So there were 79 frauds. One person who really was the best at math. The guy who came in first in the class is a lawyer in New York now. The guy who came in second is a professor of chaos theory at Princeton. And then I came in third. So I knew, okay, math, geez, that's interesting. Anyway, I didn't take Physics 55, but I read the Feynman book. And so if you're motivated, seriously, you don't have to take a course. The Feynman book, if you're hardcore, just read the Feynman book, do the problems. You want to learn to do software? Read The Art of Computer Programming. Good luck doing the problems, but anyone that's rated 30 or harder is like super hard to do. And so a MOOC, in a sense, doesn't change what counts. It's always been in the textbook, but the percentage of students who just buy textbooks and read them and know the subject is vanishingly small. You kind of have to have this thing where a bunch of kids all come at the same time. And if you don't study, you're going to get a bad grade, and your parents may not like that. You have to create all these social things in order for people to get into this mode of hyper-concentrating and actually understanding, why should I concentrate? If I'm a high school student, they put X's and Y's up on the board. How does that relate to my life? Now, if you understood that being good at math lets you get a good job, travel the world, you might say, okay, it does relate to me, but that's a very indirect thing, and the kind of discipline to care about that, to concentrate. That's what's missing. And so MOOCs, to the degree that it's easier to take a MOOC than it is to read a textbook, yeah, that's nice. It's a little bit interactive. There's a video. That's partly why I like the Learning Company, like all their economics. There's a guy named Timothy Taylor who has 5 courses on economics. I super recommend. And you learn to like him and his way of explaining things. So a MOOC is a slightly more digestible form of learning, but it doesn't take, particularly for somebody at a young age, it in no way changes this question of why should people engage in that learning, and how do you create the environment and the sense of achievement and the sense of capability that sitting in there and looking at X's and Y's and manipulating them seems like a smart thing to do.
What are the things you think about that make companies successful in this type of environment versus those that struggle?
Well, I think it starts with us having a long-term view rather than a short-term view, and always thinking of how we can be successful long-term by creating value for others, starting with our customers and employees. And so when we look at it that way, there's always uncertainty. So it starts with being prepared with that and recognizing that the future is unknown and unknowable. So the way we have prepared ourselves for that is focusing on building capabilities that will make us successful under a whole variety of conditions, which means having more flexibility, more optionality, more diversity. And so those are the things that we've always tried to do. And so the starting point is building capabilities that will enable us to create value with others, starting with our customers. And then finding the opportunities or the sets of customers for whom we can create the most value. And then as we do, not resting on our laurels, but recognizing the future is going to be different than the past, then continually improving and adding to those capabilities. And as we do, then we say, oh, with those capabilities, we can now pursue additional opportunities. And then as we start pursuing those opportunities, we realize, well, we need additional capabilities. So we add still more capabilities. So this creates what I've called a virtuous cycle of mutual benefit, where it's continual improvement and growth and diversity, which is a way is the way to deal with Schumpeter's what he called creative destruction.
My dad did upholstery on cars, so if you got a rip in your car seat, you would take it to where he worked. My mom worked odd jobs from wherever, and we lived in an okay neighborhood, but we weren't poor by a long shot, but we were truly middle class. And over and over, my dad didn't go to college, my mom didn't go to college, and so they would beat into me, you're going to college. And they used to make me work at odd jobs so that I would learn the value of work. And I'd go where my dad worked doing it with cars, and he'd make me sweep the whole, and this place was nasty, make me sweep all the time, tried to get me a job in a mill, but couldn't get me a job in a mill. My mom wanted me to lay carpet because she was worried about me if I didn't have a trade. And so she got a friend of hers to try to get me, to teach me how to lay carpet. And if you ever go, there's this little office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. If you trip over the carpet, that's where I learned how to lay carpet. And I was going through these things, I'm like, this is just not me. And I always had that individual spirit to say, okay, I can come up with things that can make me money. I mean, when I was 9, I would sell baseball cards. When I was 12, I told my dad I wanted a pair of basketball shoes. And it just so happens he was playing poker with his buddies, who were all probably rip-roaring drunk at the time, and I just didn't realize it. But I was like, Dad, I want a new pair of tennis shoes. The new Beta Bullets were coming out, or whatever they were, and New Converse. And he's like, you see those shoes on your feet? They work just fine. When you have a job, you can go buy whatever you want. I'm like, Dad, I'm 12. I don't have a job. And one of his buddies stood up, well, not stood up, but he said, hey, I got a job for you. He had these boxes of garbage bags. And he's like, I've got these boxes of garbage bags I don't know what to do with. Why don't you sell them? I'm like, cool. You know, what do they cost me? And they literally were a box of 100 these blue garbage bags that he would sell them to me for $3. And then I went door to door. And I was like, hi, my name is Mark. Do you use garbage bags? And I learned I could sell. It was just like, okay, $6, you know, I'll drop them off whenever you need them. Just call me. And I made some money, bought my shoes, and, you know, and that just gave me confidence, and it took off from there.
If you can remember back to, you know, when you were kind of my age, did you think you would have all of this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I had no idea. I grew up in Pittsburgh. My dad did upholstery on cars. So if you got a rip in your car seat, you took it to him. My mom had odd jobs from selling real estate to making baskets, and you know, I was just a normal kid, but I was always into business. From as long as I could remember, I was selling something or working on something, trying to make money, and it just got me excited to be a business person, and it just took off from there.
You know, you always have to think ahead. You know, in business, sometimes what is good today might not be good tomorrow. So you need to, you know, look at it. If you have the means, there's nothing really like diversification. You know, sometimes you do quite a lot of diversification, and then you consolidate before you move forward. You cannot just keep expanding, because sometimes when you overexpand, it can cause a lot of crisis also. So you need at least once in a while to consolidate and, you know, forward.
One of the great secrets in life to becoming successful, whether it's in a business, whether it's working with someone or for someone or in your own personal life, and I learned this selling encyclopedias door to door in my early 20s, is be prepared in life for a lot of rejection. Because if you're prepared for a lot of rejection, it comes, you don't get turned off, you don't get disappointed, like, well, I'm not gonna do this anymore, no one thinks it's a good idea. It's like, I say selling encyclopedias, knock on 100 doors, they slam them in your face. You must be just as enthusiastic on door number 101 as door number 1. The best advice I could give is, number 1, be prepared for a lot of rejection. If you're ready for rejection, if people say, no, I don't want it, no, it's not going to work, no, this is crazy, whatever, if you're prepared for it, it's not going to let you down. Learn from your failures. I had a lot of failures along the way, even with my patron and Paul Mitchell, but we learn from those things and we get a lot better.
We got this new thing called classism. It's racism's cousin. This is what we do to hold people back. This is what we do. And we got this other thing that's also been working for a long time where you don't have to be racist anymore. It's called self-hate. It works on itself. It's like real estate of racism. Where just like that, when someone comes up and says something like, I am a god, everybody says, who does he think he is? I just told you who I thought I was, a god. I just told you. That's who I think I am. Would it have been better if I had a song that said, I am a nigga? Or if I had a song that said, I'm a gangster? Or if I had a song that said, I am a pimp? All those colors and patinas fit better on a person like me, right? But to say you are a god, especially when you got shipped over to the country that you're in and your last name is a slave owner's. How could you say that? How could you have that mentality?
I mean, I know in the past you've talked about, like, you know, building hotels, doing things that are beyond people's normal frame of reference. Yeah. They know you as Kanye West, an artist. They know that you're moving into fashion. But these things, I guess, in a way, are hard for people to comprehend because they don't have that level of drive. Do you know what I mean? Has it always been like this for you? Have you always felt like you can set your mind to anything and you will achieve it ultimately?
I always felt like I could do anything. That's the main thing people are controlled by. Thoughts, their perception of themselves. They're slowed down by their perception of themselves. If you're taught you can't do anything, you won't do anything. I was taught I could do everything. And I'm Kanye West at age 36. So just watch the next 10 years.
For too many of us, myself included, we don't play enough. We don't have enough fun. We don't take the risk that's in our head. And one of the things that I'm constantly trying to work on is that idea to action, right? That when I come up with an idea, I'm going to do something about it. And it's especially hard when other people are involved. It's especially hard in an interview. I'm sitting there talking to Matthew, asking him about his career. We spent an hour together, and we'll link up the video at the end of this video. And as ideas come to me, he constantly judged the question. Like, ooh, I don't know, should I ask that question? Should I ask that question or not? Is that a good question? Is he gonna be offended by the question? Should I keep pulling on this thread? Is that a good question to ask, or should I move on to the next topic? It's this constant kind of track going on in the back of my head. And what I've learned to do more and more and more and more is just trust the question. It came to you for a reason. It may not make sense, but trust the question. If the intention is good, right? The intention isn't to make him look bad or anybody else look bad, right? The intention is good. The intention is positive. This question came to me for a reason. Trust it. Do something on it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that holds people back is you get these ideas in the moment, like, what if I did this? And you don't trust it. And then it maybe disappears. Or maybe you look back and say, I wish I did that. This is why I started my first business. I actually didn't think it was going to work out. When I was 19, I had to choose between making $300 a month and owning 30% in this company, or making 6 figures at what I thought was my dream job, banking and traveling around the world. I didn't think or know. I wasn't like, yes, this business is for sure going to work out. This business is for sure going to be my big exit. I'm going to make tons of money. It was more, I didn't want to regret not knowing that even if the most likely scenario was failure, I still had to know. And I would rather know and fail than not know. And what I've learned to do over the past 20 years, I guess, and still continue, I still, when I get a question in my head or an idea in my head, there's still a moment of hesitation. And that's what I'm constantly working on getting rid of. That idea to action, immediate. Faster, 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 faster. That this idea came to me for a reason. That I have to at least try. That I have to at least take the first 2%, the 2% difference, right? Stop planning for 100% and just take action on the first 2%. That I have to try. That I have to at least get a taste of it instead of prejudging it, instead of telling myself that it's not going to work out. That as long as the intention is good and the intention is to serve and to help, then I need to try. You can always back up from it, right? Like if I asked a question that offended him, I could always explain where it came from. I can always explain the intent. The worst case scenario isn't that bad. It's not that bad. You can almost always make it up to somebody. Versus the upside of actually doing it and it works out. And what you find is if you continue to listen to that intuition, if you continue to listen to your big ideas, if you continue to ask the questions that you want to ask, do the thing that you want to do, you'll find a much happier life. You'll find a much more impactful life, a much more purposeful life. And I think that's the life that you deserve.
There's a reason why in my videos I say you have Michael Jordan level talent. I believe it, it's true. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. You are the best, the absolute best at something in the world. Most people, either one, don't believe it. They don't believe that they're world class at something. Or two, they found the thing that they could be world class at, but they don't have enough guts to chase it down. They don't believe in themselves enough to chase it down. Here's the thing. You need to first explore. You need to explore. You gotta search. You gotta say yes. You gotta try things. You don't know that Tim Hortons is your favorite coffee cup until you've tried it, right? You don't know that sushi is your favorite food until you've tried it. Sushi doesn't make sense. Right? This is how we think. Our logical brain starts to analyze things, and because it doesn't make sense, we don't try it. Sushi doesn't make sense. You're gonna take raw fish, mix it with rice, put seaweed around it, and then eat it. That sounds nasty, right? If you've never tried it before, it sounds nasty, but it's the best. A lot of the things that you might be great at, you are judging, you are dismissing because it doesn't make logical sense. You don't need to wrap your head around it. You need to wrap your heart around it. You have to feel it. You have to say yes and be willing to try it at least once. If you don't know what you're great at, you have to say yes and try things. And you pay attention to the feeling. The most important thing is you pay attention to the feeling. How did it make you feel? You might not be great at it. I expect not to get results at the beginning of anything. especially if it's a new skill you're learning, right? Expect to suck at the beginning. You're gonna suck. It's okay, it's normal. But how does it make you feel? Does it energize you? Do you wanna come back and do it again?
People aren't lazy. They just don't have dreams that inspire them. They default to thinking, I'm a lazy person. I don't have ambitions. I don't know what I want to do in life. I'm just a loser. No, you just don't have a dream that makes you want to go off and do something. And until you figure that out, you're going to be in this constant cycle of feeling like a loser. It's one of the most common questions that I get asked on my IG streams. I go live every single day on Instagram, at least right now while I'm on my tour. And every single day I get asked some variation of, Evan, I'm lazy. How do I get out of it? Evan, I'm procrastinating. How do I get out of it? One, you don't call yourself a lazy person. There's no such thing as a lazy person. If you are procrastinating or you're being lazy, right? You are being lazy doesn't mean that you are a lazy person. There's two reasons why you're doing it. There's two reasons why you are being lazy. One, you don't have a dream that's big enough. You don't have something that inspires you. You don't want to get out of bed in the morning. If I was an accountant, I would be a really lazy accountant. I would hate my life. Not to knock accountants, it's just not for me. If I was a video editor, I would be lazy. I would hate my life. I don't want to be a video editor. I don't want to be an accountant. Actually, there's most things in the world that I don't want to be. And if you forced me to do that, I would be lazy. That's 95% of America. I think 95% of America wakes up and drives to a job that they hate. And then they're lazy there. But they have dreams, they have ambitions. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. You just have to find it. And so if you don't know what that thing is, then it's your duty to go off and explore. You test, you try, you see. You say yes to a lot of stuff. Like, this is the most important thing that you need to figure out in your life if you don't know what your dream is. You have to go off and try things. Just like you won't get married until you go on dates. You won't get married to an idea until you go on dates, until you try it, until you say yes. And the acid test is, did I like it? Do I want to go back? Does this fill me up? Did I enjoy the process of it? Can I see myself doing this and having fun? Because when you're having fun doing the work, that's when it will fill you up. That's when you won't be lazy. And there has been times in all your lives where you felt that, where you felt the joy, the energy, the ambition, the drive. And so you need to capture that and say yes and find what it is that your big dream.
You need to tie your self-respect to your efforts, not your results. Where you get your self-love from, your self-respect, your self-confidence should not come from winning. It comes from trying. Because if you tie your self-respect to winning, you'll only do things that you know you're gonna win at, and therefore you play small for life. So I'm training a guy on my team who I've promoted, and I'm putting him in a position that is way beyond his skill set, way beyond what he thought he'd be doing. And it's a big push outside his comfort zone. He was a guy who was doing a bunch of admin tasks for me, and now he's in charge of all of my YouTube analytics. I want him to be my data guy. I want him to go through the thousands of videos that I have on my channel and make recommendations to say, this intro is too long, this intro is too short, this thumbnail sucks. You know, when you talk, Evan, things blow up or things suck. When you wear black, people love it. Anything. Go through all the data, go through all the analytics, and tell me where we need to make improvements. So I was on a call with him yesterday, and I had to have a serious talk with him because he's looking for data that supports his hypothesis. Because he suggested on my channel, my main channel, that we go back to my original intros where I say one sentence here, one sentence here, and one sentence here, and then he's Robert F. Smith, and here's my take on his top 10 rules of success, right? That's what we did way back, like in the very first original series of the top 10s, and we've evolved. So he suggested take out the song, take out the intro, take out a whole bunch of stuff, and just do those three things, and let's see if it works. So that's what I did. Like, great, good idea. The data supported it, backed it up. Let's go and try. We haven't tried it, we won't know. So we tried it. The first video came up was the Robert F. Smith top 10 rules for success on that new template. And I'm looking at the data and it sucked. You know, my goal is to get 70% audience retention at 1 minute. That's my goal across my channels, 70% audience retention at 1 minute. That means 30% of people max have left at the 1 minute mark. That's an insanely high goal to reach. Almost nobody hits that, especially consistently. You might think, oh, 70%, it's easy. It's insanely difficult in the YouTube world. So I looked at the numbers for this one, and it was 52% or something brutal. We don't really operate in the 52% range. So this one came in, it was brutal. 52%, like having a heart attack. Oh, it sucked. People hate this. And then I asked him, hey, how are we doing on the new videos? And he sent me this report that says, hey, well, on our relative data is up. You know, a relative of data saying compared to all videos on YouTube, this video is doing well in the first minute. Yeah, but that's not actually the real story, because all of our videos relative to regular YouTube, if you're looking at any video, this video, my first video, all of them, every video I make relative to a normal average YouTube video, were higher relative. That's not what I'm looking for. We're going after 70% audience retention at 1 minute. You know this. This is where we're focused. And behind all of it was he just didn't want to feel like a failure. He didn't want to feel like he recommended something to me and it didn't work out. That he's trying to justify it by saying, well, look, this stat shows that it works, but it's not what we're after. This experiment so far has been an epic failure, and that's okay. What I need you to do is expect to suck. Expect the ideas not to work. Know that coming in. Know that coming in, we're already operating at a really high level, right? If every experiment that we try works, that means that we just sucked at the beginning, right? We sucked. You're learning. You're picking this up. Most of my new experiments don't work. I'm trying hundreds of new things all the time, and most of them won't work. I expect to suck. But it's okay, because I tie my self-worth to the effort. Am I putting my max effort out? Your experiment, I'm talking to the guy, your experiment was a great test. I backed it. The data suggested we do it, but it's not working. And we'll give it a month to see. And if it still doesn't work, we're going to move on and do something else. If you want even more advice on how billionaires think, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
That's not really how it works. If you don't love it, don't expect others will either.
Your relationship with time is such a key component of your life, because when you get caught in a routine, time goes so quickly.